Yo, peace, blessings, greetings, salutations. This is your man, the bad kid, Malik Yusef. The music is in the building with my brother, Abe Ilo. Just touched down.
What up?
And we gonna cut to the quick of it. We finna give all praise to the Most High, for allowing us another day. We ain't do nothing yesterday to deserve to be alive today for sure. Not to draw breath. And we also are sitting here in honor of Saint Annie Lee, who helped bring us together from a spiritual realm. Of course, she did a rendition of the Last Supper that helped us to want to delve more into that iconic scene and that iconic idea of what it really means to have your last supper, and to know that it's your last supper. It's a little different than just having a last supper, knowing that this is the one. So they made us do some backwards research, or retro research on the life of the historical Christ, the Christos, Yeshua, Isos, however you want to say it, whatever language you speak, Jesus, for my Latin ex brothers and sisters. So just to tell you a little bit about Saint Annie Lee, I like Abe to walk through that a little bit just so y'all can know why she's so centrally important to this.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, I appreciate you for having your boy, you know what I mean, come on the platform with the bad kids, you know what I'm saying, and be able to represent the Annie Lee Art Foundation. And one of the reasons that I started the Annie Lee Art Foundation is because of her importance to the Black family, American art, and even now, Black Americana, the etymology of taking something that was perceived one way and then giving us just a door to walk through and expand on that idea. And a lot of times that's appreciated with her faceless images. I was just talking to my man earlier today about, one of the things Black people especially loved about Annie's paintings is you could see the feeling and the authenticity in it. But by being no faces, you got to play a part in the creation of that image because now it's your favorite aunt or, your homie or somebody that you can really assimilate into those images. And so with, by you picking the Last Supper, the conversation was, we still have that faceless image, so where do you fit at that table?
Come on.
How do you see yourself, when you look at that? And that was kind of like damn, that was kind of deep.
Yeah.
For that to also be her last big piece. She painted that in 2014. That's the year she passed away. So, like you said, a Last Supper, to be painting a piece and knowing that this is literally your last time to do your craft. She never retired. She ended her life painting, doing what she loved to do.
Come on.
And in a strange way, it was the paint, the fumes from the paint that added to her health issues.
Come on.
So for her to persevere through that part of it and then be adamant about leaving her legacy with her family, to allow me the opportunity to protect her legacy and make sure it got into the right hands, and by that, I mean Black people. She always wanted to paint for her people to empower them and give them something, that basically America wasn't giving us.
Mm.
She could have painted expensive pieces to get them into different museums and galleries and things like that. She had the talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She was classically trained. She was a master of what is it called?
Interdisciplinary.
Interdisciplinary,
Mm-hmm.
art.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But
Wow.
that's not what's usually talked about when you hear about Annie Lee, but she was, she was that. And so that's just some of the reasons why, from that perspective, why she's a very important person to basically study and learn and know and remember,
Yeah, it's always a powerful lineage that a person comes through and comes from that has the lasting impression on a culture. One of the reasons why I'm doing this small docu-series is because people always love when I talk about the Bible and the Quran and Siddharthic texts and the Bhagavad Gita and the Talmud and the Torah, Kabbalah. Something that gave me great interest as a youth. So I began to study, and as I began to travel to these places, I remember at 20 years old going to Palestine and immediately understanding that this was where the historic Jesus the Christ was born, and understanding that there was no Muslims there at the time. People that followed the concept and construct of Islam, but no people that called themselves Muslim in that way, in the way that we know Muslim and Islam to be together.
mm-hmm.
And understanding 1,000 years before that, when the Hebrews were persecuted by the Zoroastrians and so on and so forth, and several different religions that were polytheistic.
Yeah.
And they took it as a major affront for people to be monotheistic because guess what? In polytheism, you can have a bunch of different things you can sell people, different gods.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why governments let you have certain religions, because they know how to capitalize on those religions. And then they use them to be divisive. Specifically in the time of the Christ that we come to know as Jesus the Christ, that is in biblical text, a couple things we got to understand. That there was a time of colonization in that region. And you can't separate the plight of Black people in these Americas, PHA Mama, from the 2,000 year ago plight that him and his people had. Can't separate it. The corollaries are too vast, they're too obvious. One thing that I like to talk about when we talk about Jesus, as the term goes, as the name goes, or the Mahdi or the Messiah or the Messiah, obviously he authored and fathered a religion called Christianity that didn't exist before his birth.
Mm-hmm.
But the Christ consciousness did exist.
Mm-hmm.
There have been many Christs. And this is not something that we get taught often. And we don't get taught it because we work 8 hours a day. We got to traverse the landscape 2 hours to work and 2 hours back. It's hard to sit there and study all this. I say all the time, studying is a luxury. That's why kids do it when they live at home with their mama and they don't have to pay rent. They can study more, But where we are is in this bad kids construct and concept that we live in. We talk about bad kids as rebels, as revolutionaries, as radicals. we talked about this before, and we'll talk about it now so people can see, is that Jesus was not a pacifist.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a killer, but there's a big space between pacificity and killing. If we go back to those times and we look at the circumstances and conditions that he was born into with the Romans, which we know where Rome is today, it's in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily the empire, the major part of the empire. They went out and wanted to impose their ideology on everybody. They had the Roman gods. We call that Roman mythology. For them, it was a religion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be clear that for them, it was a religion. Those gods was as real as people had their saints today. As real or realer. They were willing to die in the name of these particular gods. They did go to war. They went to prayer. They made sacrifices. They made offerings with these particular gods in their mind and in their
when
heart.
they had victory, they gave the credit to those gods.
Talk about that. Talk about that. And when you look at cultures from around the world, the attributes of the gods are the same. The attributes are the same. The names are different. The look is different.
Mm-hmm.
The origin stories slightly vary. But we know for the bulk of the time, when Jesus said there's one God, which was a very new concept. It was only like 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
You know, a couple thousand years old at that time. So it's pretty new for Earth to have monotheistic God. The Zoroastrians came with it first, right?
Right.
A completely benevolent and then a malevolent motherfucking being, right? One person that's all the way good, one person all the way bad. That didn't exist in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Because of scarcity of resources, people doing what they got to do. You feel me? So imagine all resources having to be scraped from the ground, scraped from the earth. You feel me? So the reason why you can read the Bible from this lens that we finna put forth is you look at the times. The time when Jesus was born, the infant mortality rate was about 50%. A woman would she would have about 6 children in that region of the world.
Mm-hmm.
About 6 children, and about 3 of them would die. Women live to about 26, 27, 28 life expectancy. Because any disease could kill you, any injury could kill you.
Yeah.
Men live to about 30, 31 life expectancy. If you weren't killed in war, which was a glorious way to die. So they were very familiar with death. So when somebody comes to talk about eternal life, they didn't have a real concept of eternity. Just longer than what I'm living now.
Yeah.
That was attractive. Somebody giving you some type of a salvation saying, hey, this can be different for you. Talking about healing, which was a rare thing in them days. You know, they didn't really have no doctors.
Right.
They had motherfuckers with sharp tools. Barbers, butchers, carpenters, stonemasons, and they had a little knowledge of the body. They would do the work on you. They didn't really understand too much about bacteria and microbes and stuff like that, microbials. So you got to look at that. It's modern times, but it's a time when it was, you know, lack of information being put down. Not that people didn't have the information around the world, but in those cities, those super cities, like a Jerusalem, wasn't no time for that education. Feel me?
Mm.
Even the midwives were given into some kind of old time concepts and stuff. And so I like you to pick up a little bit about when Jesus talked, we know we got the song When Jesus Walked with Ye.
Yeah.
But when Jesus talked, motherfuckers got to understand who he was talking to.
Yeah.
Pick up on that a little bit, bro, if you don't mind.
So for me, I got to know of Jesus with my mother.
Mhm.
Basically, she was on a journey to find a church home.
Mm.
So where we grew up at in Chicago, we ended up going to the school of the Seventh-day Adventists for a while.
Mm.
We didn't stay there because he couldn't eat meat. But I went to school there and learned how to play the recorder, and that was one part of the journey. So we left there. Then we went to the Baptist church with the priest and whatnot, and it was religious, but it was racist because we was the only black family in there, so that didn't work. We ended up at the Stony Island Church of Christ, where the young man that was preaching was dynamic and caught her attention. He was preaching about Jesus, and so the idea that my mother had in mind, she wanted my father to come to church so he could stop doing the stuff he was doing, you know what I mean? And so my dad, when he tells me the story, he said all these times your mama was running around to these churches, she never came back as excited as this one time when she went to Stony Island talking about this preacher, so I had to come up there and see what she was so happy about.
See what's to do.
Yeah, like
what's to him.
What's to him. So my pops went and he heard the message and went up and got baptized, to my surprise, right? And so the next Sunday, because my pops did it, I went up and got baptized. None of these other churches had I committed to in this way, but when I seen my father do it, I was like, because I understood the story about Jesus too. You know what I'm saying? You got to hear, believe, confess, repent, and be baptized. So I took the steps. Shorty, 12.
Yeah.
But when we learned about Jesus, he was already 33. So my quest to get to know him was, what was he doing before that? So when you asked me to pick up on what he spoke on, it wasn't till well into my adult life that I learned about the Logos. You know what I'm saying? The young Jesus that actually went and met with Buddha, blew Buddha's mind, you know what I mean? Met with the Dalai Lama. He met with all these different people as a shorty, and then went through the chambers, like he requested when they say that the sages, every so often, that the sages will come together and kind of predict what's to come of the ages to come, what's before us. So
I want to interrupt right quick.
Yeah.
The word age, era, and world is the same word, just so people can know. When they say the end of the world, end of an age, end of an era.
Because and I was thinking that because the end of the world happens often, a lot. It's always happening.
Those worlds end.
It's never not happening, right? Exactly. So anyway, he got with the sages of that time, again, as a shorty, went through the protocol to basically be a sage, but it wasn't to be a part of their group. This was his learning journey. So everybody, he was going to meet with the great minds of that time and to pick their brain, and as it would turn out, what he had to say changed their life. And everybody agreed, like, this the one.
His perspective.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it always kind of lent to the fact that your understanding has to come from the Most High, because there's no other way. You don't even have the age to have walked
enough steps.
Yes, to know what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we know what we know?
Yeah.
And I like this part of the conversation about Jesus. I think we're going to do a whole bunch of episodes about this in particular, this man in particular.
Yeah.
But, his mother, Miriam, then his sister also named Miriam, and then Miriam the Magdalene.
Right.
And from what we understand, her people came from the Italian part, or the Etruscans.
Right.
People always look, and I tell all my white friends this, we don't have to look for black people in the Bible. They are the Bible.
Right.
That people in that region.
Right.
Not that white people weren't involved. White people were traveling in that time.
Yeah.
To Africa.
Yeah.
to those portions of the world. White people were always
Well,
traveling.
those terms, white and black people, didn't
Didn't
exist
exist then.
during that time
It didn't
either. So there
exist.
wasn't this
Exactly.
contingency with just skin.
Exactly.
Like your skin tone is so important now, and it's such bullshit. But,
Yeah, your
language.
pigmentation. No, it is
Yeah.
bullshit. Your pigmentation, your Pantone skew, if you will.
Yeah.
But that's a great way to divide people.
Yeah.
And Jesus was really here as a unifier, and they used it as a separator. You
Right.
know, the most segregated place in America is Sunday morning. Black church, white church.
Mm-hmm.
And then you should have some Korean churches and some Latino. But that's
But walk up in the wrong church. Though.
walk in the wrong
You're
church.
not gonna feel Jesus.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? You're
You're
not,
not
gonna feel the love and spirit of the
Not
Most High.
at all.
You're gonna get so you lost.
Mm-hmm. I was in a Korean Christian church doing an event. I'm a Muslim, but I speak at a lot of churches and stuff. Cause I can touch the youth, and they know that, so they ain't really tripping on that.
Right.
But I was like, yo, I'm so glad to be here. I want y'all to know that Jesus is in the house. It's like, that's right. Like, no, Jesus is in the house. My nigga Jesus just walked in. I got this Latino rapper homie. He live in Seattle now. His name Jesus.
Yeah.
Not Jesus. He called himself Jesus.
Right.
Same spelling though. And they was mad at me. I said, I'm gonna have Jesus come up and say a word. They're like, how say a word? What? How Jesus gonna say a word? Now come on, now you go too far. We know Jesus in here. But then they see him walk up there like, he playing. I'm not playing. That's the man's name.
He can't be named Jesus.
He can't be named Jesus. That's off limits.
Does it say that in the Bible?
Come on now, talk about this.
Right.
One here we go with the construct of Jesus. Yes, a spiritual leader who started the religion of Christianity, which was the Christ consciousness, had been passed down for, as far back as humanity has been.
Right.
You look at Krishna. Some places they call him Krishna Christ.
Yeah.
In India. That's about 800 years before the first, what we call the first century, because we base our timeline on the birth of Christ.
Right.
And that has affected the whole world because Christianity is the most popular religion in the world.
Yeah.
So
until Caesar changed the calendar to put itself before
both
God.
Caesars.
Yeah, to put but yeah.
Yeah. So there's talk about that. Talk about that right quick. So we go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, basically just that. Like, when I teach my kids, I try to have them aware of the world and the society that we live in from all aspects. To basically avoid frustration. So like in particular, when you read the Bible, like the conversation we had yesterday was why did Christ even have to come to earth?
Mm-hmm.
We always talking about Jesus Christ, but why did he come?
Mm-hmm.
It was because God created man to worship him so that he could bless him.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to have a 100% exchange of love between himself and his creation.
Mm-hmm.
But man, in our nature, and because of what happens in the manifestation from the spiritual into the physical, you have your polarities of good and bad.
Positive, negative.
Yeah, so,
constructive, destructive.
Black and white, all the different variations of the same thing,
Yin
which
and
is,
yang. Come on.
So man had a proclivity to do things that didn't honor the Most High. He started to put it like we was talking about with Caesar. Great and powerful men were born that felt like, I want to replace God almost.
Talk about what Caesar did with the calendar.
So basically, he reset the calendar. And that's what I was getting to, is that as Israelites, we had these blessed days that was put into effect that we should adhere to. But being pulled out of our alignment with the Most High,
come on,
we don't know that March is the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that, the different holy days that we are to adhere to is what allows us to get God's blessings on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And being called Negro, Black, and colored and all these things to separate us from our lineage is what keeps us out of sync with this understanding. So when Caesar came along and then he kind of pushed the days, but then when you go and you look at the names of the months, you know that how it lines up. You could just say with like October, that's 8, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oct is
and
8.
Then November, Nove, December.
Nove is 9.
Deci is definitely 10.
Deci is 10.
And I'm a December baby, so why do I think my birthday is 12/17 if it should be 10? So with that simple flex, and this is literally them flexing against God.
Yeah, they added 2 months to the what we call the Gregorian calendar.
Right.
Augustus Caesar added August. Julius Caesar added July.
Right.
Because they were politicians at the time, or what some people call zealots, which were some politicians or rogue politicians, and he was also considered clergy and also royalty. So they had a trifecta of power.
Yeah. And
the people didn't have as much power because they couldn't control armies. They control weapons, but not armies. And you gotta understand, at that time, the Jews of that time or the Hebrews of that time were segmented. You had spoke on Israelites. Israelites were the highest level of Hebrew.
Yeah.
Okay, from Israel. Then they had other smaller sects, and that's where Herod came from.
And just not to stop your wisdom, God put a quick pin in that, but I identify with every form of a black man.
No question.
I call myself Moorish, Israelite.
No question.
It's not one of them I don't claim, because at the end of the day, I be trying to tell my people, you could, if they can call you black, you can find something that resonates with you and your spirit culturally, and be that and leave it to it's to their charge to disprove you. At this point, you're not giving me my full, so how you gonna tell me I'm not that?
Exactly.
I see a lot of times online where if you put more, somebody jump in the comments, oh, it's a joke. Like, it's not a joke. Like you said, I'm not playing.
Not playing.
I'm telling you, I identify with all of it because we was everywhere and nowhere to begin with. So anyway, back to what you was saying. I just made me think of that.
I appreciate that too. Because, Jesus, again, I'm tempting to edify and at the same time demystify some of his life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He came in at a time where the Roman government, the colonizers, were overtaxing people. You understand something about that time. People were being taxed to 30 to 50% of their income.
Right.
So they would colonize you, and for their trouble, they would charge you, half of your wages. And people was not geeing for that.
Right.
We see in the Bible, it talks about a crucifixion of about 2,000 people. Well, not the Bible, but in the historical records of that time that correlate.
Biblical
times. In that time frame, about 2,000 people got crucified on the road from, I believe, Lebanon all the way to Palestine. 2,000 crucifixions because there was an uprising about the taxes. And they systematically found each one of those people. You know how they did it? They offered the people to tell on them a tax break. Come on, man.
Yeah.
The government giving tax breaks to your enemy, not to you.
Right.
Like in America right now, these corporations are pretty much our enemy. They sell us poison. They give us chemicals to cook our food in. They grow our food with chemicals. They tell us to cook it with radiation. Yeah.
It's illegal to own certain seeds for produce if you got a garden. So you can get
the same thing then.
You can get penalized for having seeds for lettuce or watermelon.
The same thing then.
Yeah.
Collecting rainwater. You feel me? Rainwater was segregated and sanctified for the ceremonial baths that they had. And the priests would go into the ceremonial baths to be cleansed before they go into the temple. The problem was also that they was trying to be too clean, which is why Jesus was against he was against the Sadducees and the Pharisees. He was against the priests.
Yeah.
More than he was against the
common people.
The Roman army.
Yeah. Oh, the army too. Right.
The centurions, he was, the sentries, he had a little beef with them motherfuckers, but it wasn't really that. Because what was happening was they was bringing diseases in accidentally. Because they would go out to be clean, and they were white a lot. And you got to understand, in those days, animals was walking down the street, they defecating, this motherfucker sick, dying, throwing up. People being rude like they is now. You go down Bourbon Street and find a motherfucker pissing in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Go down Bourbon Street right now, find a motherfucker pissing in the corner. Somebody might take a shit. So the town stunk, and it's in the records that people could smell that area, Nazareth, Jerusalem, all that while coming up on it. That's how stinky it was. Wow. That's why frankincense was so important. Mm. Frankincense was so important. It's an incense, but it mainly come from Saudi Arabia, from the Nuan Desert, I believe, from Saudi Arabia, and the camels would take it up. That's why it was so expensive too. Mm. You talking about selling that shit like dope? That was like per ounce, nigga, right? Per gram. You know what I'm saying? It was that. Mm-hmm. So Jesus was aware of all these things, but he also was aware that the regular people, his little people, the Hebrews, they couldn't get to shit like that there. They couldn't have access to it because it was expensive.
Right.
It done been taxed. The Romans done taxed the motherfucking resin. It's a tree resin. They done taxed it 20 times for a hit. Mm. Which is also, we jumping around a little bit, but when they say Jesus ran up in the motherfucking in the church synagogue,
turning over the tables and whatnot,
turned over the tables. Yeah. It's because he said the money changers, but it wasn't just the money changers. The priest was letting people, because it was a safe place that people could identify. Foreigners could come and identify that this was a safe place to get down at. So the priest was letting it ride, but the priest was in heavy cahoots with the government. Because they job is really to serve God, like you said.
Yeah.
But they couldn't do that unless they gave the Romans what they wanted. Which is a little bit of leniency, I should say. Mm-hmm. On how they could come in and keep getting money. Now, me and you talked about the apostle Luke. Mm-hmm. A.K.A. Levi. And he had another name too. Escapes me right now, but he was a tax collector.
Yeah.
Which they all hated. Because you couldn't eat, nigga. If you was getting hit 50 cent taxes, property tax, they had tax on everything, you really couldn't eat if you weren't making a lot of money. Mm. So people didn't fuck with him, but Jesus was showing that everybody is redeemable. But really what Jesus was doing was trying to figure out how the tax system worked. Because like you said before, he was a scholar. Mm-hmm. Understand that first. Before he became the leader of a set of people that followed his religion, his steps, his religion meaning his rituals, he was a scholar.
Absolutely.
He went to Egypt with the Magi.
Yeah.
The magicians.
Yeah. He was a student of his craft.
A talib.
Yep.
And a tecton, which means Jesus wasn't a carpenter, he was a tecton.
Right.
Like a stonemason. And if you go back through the scriptures, that's the most important material all throughout the entire Bible. Stone. Look around the world. Every continent, except for what we know as Antarctica, has stone masonry. Pyramids. Europe has pyramids. They tore them down to make roads.
Yeah.
Japan, same pyramids. All over. Peru, everywhere. Same ones. Same type. Pumacanton has the same tight stones. You can't even put a slice of paper between.
Right.
So we know this, but that's more metaphysical than what I really wanted to go on. But this there's part of him being a revolutionary, which is why he had Simon with him. Not Simon, was Shimon, which would have been his Aramaic name.
Mm-hmm.
There was two Shimons. Shimon Petrus, which is Simon Peter,
Right.
and his three brothers, they were fishermen. But Shimon, Shimon the Zealot. He was a bit of a politician his motherfucking self.
Yeah.
So he knew a lot of the laws and shit, and he was a zealot fighting against and railing against taxes. He's pretty much a conservative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like the conservatives we got now. These motherfuckers is out their fucking mind.
Yeah.
They praising murders by police and shit when you should be prosecuted if you was a real patriot. And that's what Jesus was telling these motherfuckers. Y'all ain't really that.
Yeah.
Because y'all going with whatever the government's saying. The government ain't nobody's friend over here.
Right.
You understand the importance of the scripture when they talk about Jesus, his birth, heralded by shepherds. Think about shepherds. They control livestock, sheep,
Right.
but mainly goats, because goats was cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
They eat almost anything.
Goat herders.
Goat herders. If you go back in the early part of the Bible when they talk about Cain and Abel, Cain was a farmer, which was looked up as a noble career, and he wanted God to love him. And his brother Abel had the herds, livestock.
Yeah.
So he would offer meat.
Right.
And that was more, you smell the meat, it's burning,
more appealing.
Fat. You feel me?
Yep.
So it's always been a tenuous relationship between farmers and herdsmen or shepherds.
Right.
Especially in that day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the goat, they wild. They'll climb a tree and eat shit. Right. They eat the roots. Sheep don't do that. So people like the lambs.
Right.
They call Jesus the Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
People like the lambs. They more passive.
So people think.
I'm about to say.
So people, I think.
I'm about to say.
Yeah, it's been.
I'm about to say, you will get killed by a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheep in the wild, they've been known to kill wolves.
Come on.
They've been known to kill lions.
Right.
And if you let a sheep live wild, they wool grow out so much where the wolf can't bite them. He'll choke trying to bite him. He get a mouthful of wool at deep levels. You feel me? So when they say he the Lamb of God, it don't mean he was no pushover.
Right.
And it depends on who leading the lambs. That's how vicious they are. There's a saying, and you know this saying. I'm far more afraid of a flock of lambs being led by a lion than I am a pride of lions being led by a lamb.
Right.
Because the lambs that we talk about, Mary had a little lamb, soft, they weak, they passive, they easily led. Sheep. Right. Sheeple, we say these things. But when they got a strong leader, when that ram is leading them,
yeah.
So the lamb turned into a ram.
Because so then again, you're going back to Christ consciousness.
Come on.
You know, like the collective is gonna have the mentality of the leader. So with Christ, his mentality, the love was so real that for him to go from 0 to 10 for his love, you there's no way you could be a passive person and even be able to have that type of range. You know what I mean? Like you can't be stuck into. Now he could be gentle and pick a flower and enjoy the fragrance of it. You know what I mean? Talk to a child in a way that child can understand, and then he could cast demons.
Exactly.
Put hands on your ass. So, you know.
And in those days, I like that you say, put hands, because in the Bible you hear this all the time. Turn the other cheek. Now, turn the other cheek means only make a man fight you as a man. That's the only thing it means.
Yeah.
In those days, when you were property, a slave, they had to slap you with the back of their hand to denote their position over you.
Mm.
Bow. Backhand smack. Disrespectful. When you were throwing down the gauntlet and you wanted to fight a man head up, you would smack him open hand. Boom. Let's get it. I'm insulted. Let's go.
Right.
Backhand smack. Man, get your
Right.
punk ass, hoe ass, bitch ass, motherfucker, Bruford ass, boom. He said, okay, they smacked you, turn the other cheek. So when you turn the cheek the other way, they can't smack you with the back of their hand. That's unavailable to them. Now they gotta smack you this way. Okay. Now, okay, yeah, you got that one.
Yeah.
You got that one. But now, what's up with this one? Open hand. Gotta treat you like a man. I'm gonna fight for mine like a man.
Right.
And they hated that because they wanted you to play your position as a subservient second-class citizen.
Right.
And Jesus said, nah. Ain't no hoes over here. Fuck you thought.
Right.
Ain't no hoes over here. The fuck you thought. And as he went and got, another misconception is that he went from house to house, poor people's houses, all throughout Jerusalem. Ain't no poor people in Jerusalem. How about that? Wasn't no poor people in Jerusalem. It was like middle class, somewhat lower middle class, and upper middle class. That's it. Wasn't no poor people in Jerusalem. Poor people had to leave out the city. You feel me?
Got you.
So he was in Jerusalem. He's cohorting with rich people.
Yeah.
So he did some talking to the poor, but he mainly was talking to the people with some power and some money. Getting them to be like, look, man, the Romans ain't our friends, G.
Right.
And the Sadducees and Pharisees, the priests that they have co-opted, is not our friends either.
Right.
We talked about cleanliness. We talk about archaeological digs right now going on in modern day world that dealing with what the fuck was happening then. So they would go, they would defecate, then they walk through the defecation. They in the mountains because they clean. We clean. Then you walking back with all these parasites and shit on your feet. You're getting into the water and you spreading this shit like germs. So it's causing blindness, all types of diseases, illness. If you got a cut on you that you ain't know about, it's being exploited.
Right.
And Jesus saying, get out these motherfucking pools. They not healing you.
Right.
Stop throwing money and coins in these pools and thinking you're going to get healed. And it was rumored that he had healed the blind man, which was one of the hardest, it still is one of the hardest ailments to heal. So they came to him because back in, like right now, we go to doctors and shit, and our last resort is prayer.
Right.
Back then, if you was poor, your first resort was prayer. Feel me?
Yeah.
And you talking about a dude that got the connection to God, that's saying he the son of God. And you hearing rumors that he done healed motherfuckers as a Christos. He coming with shit. He could spit out his mouth. He done been around the world. You understand? He got all kind of...
Right. He probably diagnosed the blindness and knew he had what was necessary to fix it on some scientific shit, not even on no hokey pokey, Father God. It was just like, I see what you...
It wasn't. Even though magic was looked down at that time, looked down upon, it still was a very important part.
Right.
You feel me? It was still a very important part. I'm not so caught up on how magic is bad or something like that or against God, because there's nothing on the earth that God didn't create.
Yeah.
Even Shaitan, the Iblis, Lucifer, everything created by God. Some of it go bad.
Well, and I think that people are born with their gifts that they supposed to exploit. You know what I mean? Most folks, especially by like our age, you know what your gifts are. And if magic wasn't given to you in that way, and you going out of your way to pursue it more so than your pursuit to be in line with the will of the Most High, then it could be a problem. But in that particular scenario, anything could be magic. It don't have to be
unexplained.
Exactly.
Math was magic.
or anything that you put before in front of the Most High as in priority. You know, I was telling my mans again last night, like you got so many weirdos that's out here now that want to like use this age of enlightenment to be masters of tarot and masters of telling people what's going on and this and this and that, but you can't be a master in something that you haven't walked in. You know what I mean? You can't know something that you've never done. So, you know, it's like that's not Christ consciousness in the sense that how we talking about it. But they try to, you know, perpetrate like it is Christ consciousness. Like, no, you know what I mean? You can always measure that type of thing in the fruit that comes from it.
No question.
You know, and I think that Annie Lee's catalog and that image that we using and what we doing are reflective of Christ consciousness, and you can see that from the fruit that comes from it.
You know what? You say Christ consciousness and the fruit that comes from it, right? The scriptures say, a tree shall be known by the fruit that it bears. So sometimes you got to wait, right?
Yeah.
You see a tree that you're not familiar with, you got to take a step and you got to wait to see what fruit. But we don't have time to be patient. You know what I'm saying? Jesus taught patience.
Right.
Gold takes a long time, especially in those days. People had to be patient. It take you 3 months to till wool till it's usable fabric. From the cutting it off of the sheep, it take about 3 months.
Right.
A person to sit there, turn it into usable fiber. 3 months.
Yeah.
We can go to the store tomorrow and get some clothes here. So now we need patience more than we needed it then.
Right.
Because we so used to getting everything, and certain things still don't move. Certain things still don't move that way.
Right. The things that last the longest don't move that way.
No question. I was at Hove House and he said that to me one time. He said, everything that you can see is temporary.
Yeah.
Everything. Everything that you can see and touch is temporary.
Right. Going back to why Christ had to come in the first place.
Come on.
It's because the Most High designed it for us to enjoy life on earth. In his infinite wisdom, saw that his creation would have to die from the physical aspect of self. Right? So he needed to come in the flesh, as is taught in this church where we was at when I was a shorty. You know, he had to come in the physical. But in the physical, he didn't die on the cross. He died in baptism. That was the whole reason that he got baptized, was to set the example and to make it, to first of all say to the Hebrews, y'all couldn't follow the laws enough. You don't have enough love in you to get back to the source of the Most High when you die. You got to sync with your soul self. So I'm going to come and I'm going to show you as Hebrews what you got to do. But this time it's going to include the Gentiles as well. Because at this point, you know, even though there's a quote unquote chosen, this particular path it relates to all. Everything with a soul, you know what I mean? And so he didn't die on the cross. He died in the watery grave of baptism. That's the understanding. So after that, he was ready to give up the physical because he wanted to go back to the Most High anyway. You know what I mean? Like that was the teaching.
Malcolm X said, I'm living life like a man who died 20 or 25 years ago. Jesus being 33 years old is very important. First of all, he was healthy.
Right.
All the way up to that. Didn't lose a limb. Didn't have to be amputated because they was dealing with metal back then, but didn't understand tetanus.
Yeah.
So people was losing limbs all the time. Didn't go blind.
They said he never broke a bone.
Never broke a bone.
Right.
So to live to be 33 years old is miraculous. Go back to the first miracle, the miracle birth. Now we know virgin don't mean woman that didn't have sex. We understand what that meant in that language, a young woman. The reason why it was miraculous because girls 13 years old almost never survived pregnancy, let alone childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And the child almost never survived.
Right.
So that was the first miracle performed, was his birth.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a father that was older. Now you can understand, Joseph already had a whole set of kids.
Right.
That was grown. A grown set of kids.
Right.
He was way, 60, 70 years old, some shit.
Right.
But the genes were so strong, his knowledge was so strong that Jesus needed to come through him, because what they could pass down after Roman occupation was their skills.
Right. And what makes sense about what you're saying too is when you follow from Adam through Noah and through all of the people in that bloodline that preceded Jesus, you know that he came through Joseph, not through Mary.
Exactly.
But then you get the virgin birth story, and nobody's ever really taken the time to explain the disconnect.
Exactly.
If he came through Joseph, then how is he from David's bloodline?
Exactly.
If he, was a virgin birth.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to point that
we
out.
getting it fixed up. People like to believe that and feel that, and it's a very beautiful story.
Yeah.
That somehow miraculously God changed up everything physiologically in physics and biology.
Right.
Which God's the master scientist, a clean mind that created it to be that way.
Right.
But yeah, God can't do anything but be less than himself.
Right.
To do that would make him lesser than himself. Because he has the ability to say, you match with this, have this, do that, boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
But we like to feel the concept that she just woke up pregnant one day.
Right.
Because it's quick, it's easy. You don't have to talk about sex to people. You see what I'm saying to you? So we have, and there's other concepts of that too. But the one we know is that tectons, which is what Jesus was, not a carpenter, a stone worker, they would leave to go out to stone quarries in the morning at about 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
They return right around sundown. So becoming a philosopher or a leader of some sort was very important because it freed you up from that tedious work.
Okay.
So if you got a chance to seek knowledge and to be able to spit knowledge back, that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's why it was very important for him to develop into this person.
Yeah.
Because that gift would have been hidden. The light hours would have been there in stone quarry. As long as you could see your tools, you would work with stone.
Okay.
Then you would have to come back. There wasn't a lot of wood, so they used wood for the home fires, keep the home fires burning. You hear these colloquialisms from that time. Little wood here and little wood there to keep it going.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't burn wool. People say, hey, burn wool. You wouldn't burn wool. It's too expensive. It's too hard to tool.
Right.
We talk about Judas. The reason why Judas is a beautiful concept is because he was already a scammer. They called him a thief.
Yeah.
But really he was a scammer. They say, oh, Judas was a thief. Judas thought that he was going to come in and literally steal the birthright from Christ and become the Macd, become the Messiah.
Right.
That was foretold in Jewish lore. So it wasn't no surprise when he turned bro in for 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah.
That's what his mission
That was in his nature.
Yeah, that's who he was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What Hov say? You was who you was when you got here, homie.
Mm-hmm.
You was who you was when you got here, homie. These guys had professions that was, important. That's why he talked about fishing a lot, because fishermen was a preferred profession. Fish this, fish men, fisher than this, water. Because they had bodies of water around, but they had the one big body of water, which was the Sea of Galilee, which was just a lake.
Right.
Then close to them, they had the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, which has got all kind of medicinal purposes and shit. So all these things we got to understand and teach our children geography, teach them botany to go along so they could better understand who they are and who Jesus really was.
Yeah.
When he flipped them motherfucking tables, he was doing that because he told the priest, y'all niggas some hoes, man.
Yeah. And kind of what we're referring to that could really, I feel like personally, this is my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that it would be in Black people's interest,
Mm-hmm.
and it would help us if our thing was church and state.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If our politics and our spirituality was combined,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where there was a code of conduct
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna discern our politics and the way we do things to the point where we just establish a better mode of communication.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, me as of late, one of the things that I leaned towards was like my yacht, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
if we could learn Christ without the religion,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Then the religion part would take care of itself.
Yep.
Because you would know that he never intended for you to worship him, but
Exactly.
to walk in those steps. Be fearless, dude. You know what I'm saying? The basics. Like I was just telling my man again last night, like we've so far gone from the basics of just common courtesy, saying thank you and excuse me, and
come on.
you know what I'm saying? When
Gotta
you make
make it
a
a
mistake,
practice.
apologize.
Gotta
I'm
make it a
sorry.
practice.
You know what I mean? Like we've demonized being smart. That to me, that's smart. When you have common courtesy,
Mm-hmm.
like what they say, common courtesy is not common.
Mm.
You know, but it's those little baby steps that can lead to the broader spectrum of basically being autonomous and being able to govern ourselves, you know, without having the history books to tell us who we are, without having the access to, you know, our family records, but seeing this time itself as biblical times.
Come on.
This is the time where
We
we
writing
could
it now.
take the time to get back to the basics and let the magic happen, so to speak. You ain't got to chase the magic. Let the magic happen. That situation with like finding out that my man stayed next door to me. If you would have heard the conversation yesterday, how it tied into that, it's like every day since we've been linking up, working on this project, I see the magic happening.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have to do is just get out of the way of it.
That's it.
You know? And I could call it magic because it falls in the category of some unforeseen thing.
No question.
But that when it happens, I'm not shocked by it. It's like, oh,
It's also
it
alchemy.
makes sense.
Alchemy is a magic, but it's a science.
Right.
You know?
Right. You take an aspirin and your headache go away.
Exactly.
It's magic. But they don't put it in
science.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that's in the soil is in our body.
Right.
Understand that.
Right.
That's why you say this person got a heart of gold. You got gold inside your body.
Mm-hmm.
You got magnesium, iron, all these metals. Why wouldn't you have gold?
Right.
Why wouldn't you have silver inside your body?
But that's also because people are so reliant on what they can see.
Of course.
So anything that's occulted that they can't see, they can't understand that you actually have the power to work that alchemy in that unforeseen space.
Mm-hmm.
It just depend on how if you know how to work with your
that temporal space in the mind, space as opposed to that spatial aspect, that physical, tangible aspect.
Right.
I'm so I know we got to get out in a few minutes, but I do want to tell a couple stories about what I've learned and what I've gleaned about Jesus. You know, there's this popular song that I'm going to redo for the album that we doing, the Resurrection album, called "Jesus Is My Nigga."
Yeah.
You heard that song?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's a white Christian couple trying to get kids to come to Sunday school. I believe. And the wife can actually rap. She can actually rap. She's oblivious to the fact that she's white and saying the word nigga, but that word would have been used in his time. Niggas.
Yeah.
Nigus.
Right.
Niggas. Those words like that.
Right.
As a term of endearment and edification because it means sovereign king.
Right.
Self-governed. It's like when English people see a guy on the street shoveling shit and say, "Hey, governor." You know this nigga not the governor.
Right.
He's not even self-governed. But it's a little bit of edification.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of feel good. You feel me?
Yeah.
On my mama. So I do want to talk about what churches make me upset about when they say, yeah, money is bad and they ask for it.
Yeah.
I know it's a running joke, but Jesus wasn't on that.
No.
You know why we know? Because Levi, the tax collector, was rich.
Right.
Because tax collectors had to have some education, some status, and they got a portion of the taxes they collected.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was just trying to tell dude, collect less taxes. What they gonna do to you? You with us.
Right.
Go around and collect taxes on the people with something. Don't hit the easiest people to hit, the poor people. Don't do that, G. And then he had Simon, Peter, and his brother, Andrew, or Andreas, who not just were fishermen. We keep saying they were fishermen. They was business owners, nigga.
Yeah.
They owned plots of land. Beautiful houses. And the houses then, you couldn't tell from the outside, but on the inside, they was beautiful because most of their inside was outside. You feel me?
Yeah.
They only had a small living quarters. Most of the shit was just
I like those
walled.
kind of living spaces too.
Shit's lit. I love them shits, bro.
Yeah.
I love them shits.
Like I was actually just sitting on the couch before we started looking at that open space housing, like in the different Indonesia and all that type of shit. Yeah.
That's how the house was built then.
Yeah.
So dude and them had bank. They daddy was a big time fisherman, and they started a business. They was using nets, but they mainly fished at nighttime because they was using nets.
Right.
Because the fish could see the nets in the daytime. So they fished at nighttime, and most of the time you fish naked. You feel me? So in case you fell in the water. So all this shit was like part of what Jesus was sciencing up and shit, and when he's picking motherfuckers to be on his team, he was specific about the motherfucking 12 people that he had with him.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be with dudes, so he say, okay, you bring your little niggas with you.
Yeah. And then he had an inner circle within the inner circle.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
They say 3 he had with him always. Mary the mother, Mary the sister, and Mary Magdalene. She's from the house of Magdalena. So,
but I was saying, even amongst the disciples,
I
then
know.
he had the apostles.
I'm saying, inside
the women was the inner circle inside the inner circle. Right.
Deeper. So
levels to this shit.
You know, Matthew, which we call Bartholomew, and Ptolemy, which was called Thomas. Thomas was a skeptic, not a doubter.
Big difference.
Skeptics ask you questions. They make you think.
Yeah.
He helped purify Jesus' sermons. Why you say that? Why wouldn't you do this?
Right.
What
and
about this?
A good question can clarify something for
Everybody.
A whole bunch of people.
Everybody. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. So, we got the book of Luke in the Bible. I tell people all the time. People like, well, what give you authority to talk about Jesus? Malik, you ain't even no motherfucking Christian, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The Quran mentions Jesus more than the Bible do. They don't know that though, because they've been
Same thing with the More Science Temple.
Exactly.
More Science Temple is about Jesus.
It's about Jesus.
You know?
No question. But they've been disconnected from this truth.
Yeah.
Because
that's also,
it's a control mechanism.
Well, yeah, because if you got a church, most churches are 501c3s. And if you get a 501c3, which is tax exempt, which helps the churches that, they always asking for money, but somehow they've been there for years, generations, right? But it's because when you fill out that paperwork, you have to tell them what's your purpose. And depending on what your category is, you can't be involved with politics at all, or you'll lose your tax exempt status.
At all.
So that's a mechanism specifically designed for the speakers in our community to be shut down. The ones who really could have the leadership from a vocal standpoint, now they have to withhold certain information from their followers, else they can lose everything.
Directly.
Yeah.
And this is not to denounce Christianity, because Christianity can't be denounced because it's Christ's religion.
Right.
I'm talking about the way the churches operate and the way any business in our community operate that's not for us.
Yeah. The way that Christ is viewed in general. If we trying to be Christ-like, then we need to have our politics in order.
Exactly.
We need to have our manners in order.
Exactly.
We need to have our nationality in order.
All that shit.
All of that.
Everything, all those things are mega important. And then,
you can't say that Christ wasn't about his nationality, because all he talked about was his father.
That's it. His lineage.
His lineage.
His legacy.
Honor your mother and your father. And a lot of times is, maybe you'll never find out, but it's the journey that's important, because that's what's going. that's what's gonna last the longest is the journey. We all gotta die, but if we got our children on the right path and if we teach them
And
the right
that's why
things,
Jesus was so important, because he was like, you'll never die. Because people died so much. They were so intimate with death in them days.
Yeah.
He's like, you'll never die. The flesh will go. Don't worry about dying, though.
Right.
Follow these things and you'll live forever with my Father.
Right.
And my father lit.
Yeah.
Jesus was about money. Stop thinking he wasn't. It's hard for Christians, it's hard for Muslims, and anybody that follows Christ for them to accept that.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to not be about money. It's easy to just need and beg and cry than organize and get money. It's easy to believe Jesus wasn't for money, so all rich people going to hell. While they living in heaven right now. How they going to hell? They living in heaven. Now, there's a hell, but they living in heaven right now. We designed to live in heaven. Right here on earth.
That's what he created. He created, his creation was to have dominion over the earth.
Come on.
Then, while they were in flesh, alive.
He surprised people in this day and age when they read about his life, because he had money. And he was getting to the money. And the fishermen that he had with him, they was footing the whole operation.
Yeah. And then that makes sense because he came through the king's bloodline.
Come on, man.
If he came from King David, if he came from Abraham, who was rich as hell, if he come from all of this bloodline of wealth, why wouldn't he?
This is why the king didn't like him.
Abundance was his norm. Right.
Because he came from the bloodline the dude wanted to be from.
Right.
He wanted to be an Israelite. He wanted to be Herod one. And then Herod Antipas, the son of Herod, who was even more wrapped up with the Romans, he was able to make a couple tax cuts. Yeah. But he would give up a little bit, and he would let them have a little bit more power in the cities and shit to make it easy on the people. So it's also always a trade-off. Some people was geeked because the Romans, they had went to Egypt already and went to other parts of Africa, and they saw the aqueducts. They saw the paved roads. Yeah. There's actually a god in Egypt, Menon, the god of paved roads.
Okay.
So paving roads was a huge thing because it made your traversement of a particular landscape like lightning fast. Now you don't need camels. Camels was a great prized possession though, because camels, not only can they go through any terrain without hurting themselves, they're not like horses. They also know where all the water is. They never forget where the water is. Yeah. So we talk about coming through the Arab desert. They taking a certain path. They gonna walk the path. They make the path from here to there. Right. So, but one thing I want to talk about, Luke, who is depicted all over the ancient world as a dark complected man. Luke, who has a book in the Bible. Think about this though. His real name is in an ancient language. He's from Antioch, which is, is in Syria. Never met Jesus, but he got a book in the Bible. Right. He was that rich, that powerful. So don't think money don't got something to do with this shit. Yeah. Poor righteous teacher has his place. Jesus wasn't poor. He had access to all the motherfucking money he could think of. All he had to do was think it. Hey, I need this to happen, shorty. And they was on that. Right. They had that bag. They had the bag. Judas had money. He was money hungry, but he had money. Right. Because he been a scammer his whole life, running around, They say, why he had him? Why he had dude with him? Jesus wasn't speaking to nobody but the disciples. You understand me? Right. He wasn't speaking to nobody but the disciples in front of everybody, though. Right. People miss that part because it's right in front of your face. Everything he said was for the disciples. Everything he said. Right. Was for the niggas right around him. Huh? That's what we miss. But it applies to everybody. 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac signs, the 12 months of the year, the 12 cycles, 12 hours in a day. Come on, man. Right. Every one of these demonstrations each one of them had their own demons they was fighting.
And that's why we were saying that if you look at that picture and going back to
Come on.
Annie's motif,
Come on.
you probably, any one of them men at that table
Mm-hmm.
at whatever given time might suit that situation.
Come on.
You know, you might go through all of those different archetypes, but at the end of the day, if you working off of Christ consciousness, you're going to always end up back in that center spot.
Every character in the Bible is a characteristic. My man Don C. has said that to me years ago.
Yeah.
Every character in the Bible is a characteristic. Samson, you go through all of them, right? But I want to clear something up before we get out of here. And I want to clear it up real good about Mary the Magdalene. Mary Magdalena.
Come on.
She was not a prostitute. We have conflated her for ease sake as a prostitute. There was prostitutes in the Bible.
Right.
Because that's the oldest profession in the world.
Right.
Sex work is work. People hate when I say that, but it is. You know, how you gonna have a woman, you can abuse her, break her back in the motherfucking, in hotel service industry, picking up shit, but she can't sell her time to a suitor.
Right.
Don't make sense.
Right.
And but do you know, if you make her, if you legalize it, then you got to protect her. Anything that's legal get protected.
Right.
Anything that's not legal ain't protected. It's a system. We know why they not legalizing this. Because it gives women power and sovereignty over their own self.
It's legal here, 9.
In certain parts.
Oh, okay.
In certain parts, not in the city proper.
Okay.
But sex work is work.
Yeah.
And we don't want to believe that because it make us feel like, man, somebody got more money than us. And he gonna get what I want. So I just want to be able to dominate and manipulate her to give me what I want. That's bogus. But anyway, there was a rumor that there was a woman who was a prostitute. And it was a rumor that she was going to get stoned. Because, of course, what happened? She got pregnant. But they don't know who baby it is, and they don't want to wait to see. Do it come out looking like Mahmoud or Dair or Jamal or Iskbab, whoever.
Right.
They all snuck over there at nighttime and demonstrated on her, gave her their little penance, you know. So Jesus show up with his niggas. You know, he rolling with 12 apostles, but all they guys too, all they talibs, all they, you know, they homies.
Yeah.
So they about 100 deep everywhere they go. It wasn't no small mob, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They was mobbed up. They weren't rolling skinny. Jesus wasn't rolling skinny, bro.
Right.
So everybody like, who's dude? Who dude is? You know, I want no telephone, but it's word of mouth. Who dude is? Who dude is? Man. So he wait till nighttime. He creep off to the crib. She over there distraught. You know, she fucked up. She hearing the rumor that she gonna get stoned to death. Sharia law.
Right.
Sharia, Sharif, Sheriff. You know what that is. The women mad because their husband dipping off. But women's work was very hard in them days.
Yeah.
You always cooking, you always cleaning, you always preparing shit. It was a hard ass job. You feel me? So they mad that she get to live a little bit luxury and don't got to do all this hard work. She get a little money. She can go to the marketplace, skibbity scab. She put a little perfume on, a little frankincense, a little myrrh.
Right.
Have medicinal purposes too. Frankincense and myrrh. Both have medicinal purposes. Hyssop, you know, all those things. So Jesus throw his hood on, slide. She say, hey, you know, I appreciate you coming, G, but tonight I'm going through a lot. Going through a lot, man. Fuckers talking about stoning me. I've just been out here doing my job. I come from over there. I came here. He say, oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to talk to you. What's to you? Well, this is who I am and this blah, blah, blah. You know, Jesus was literate, though. One of the few people that was literate. He could write and he could read. They bought him books. The Magi, what we call the wise men, bought him books as a baby. You know how hard it was to get a motherfucking book?
Right.
Wasn't no bookstores, nigga.
Yeah.
We had to create that shit. It was a
And
scroll.
you can only imagine who the authors were.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
writing down this ancient information and shit. So he talking to us like, so what happened? So it's like, yeah, I wound up getting pregnant by one of these motherfuckers over here. Yeah, well, who was you fucking on? Man, shorty, who was you hitting? I mean, I was, doing Dino's with, I'm trying to make my money. It was dude, it's Hassan.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. She's like, what do he look like? Oh, he the one that's tall and thick. Oh, okay. And who the other one? He's a short, skinny one. And his cousin is the dude that's like the super light-skinned dude. But his best friend is the dark-skinned dude. And he's like, oh, yeah. I thought I saw him in the marketplace. Yeah, one of them, he got the this. He sell that. Other dude, he sell I forgot the name of the fruit that, like the predecessor fruit of lemons and limes. It's really healthy fruit, though. It's big, though. It's green. The predecessor fruit for lemons and limes. He sell that. Then dude, he a goat herder. Then dude, he got money from this. Dude he be baking bread. And he gave me some bread. Bread.
Right.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
He's all night. So ain't nobody come over there because she still got the motherfucking candle lit. Meaning it's don't slide.
Right.
So they like, man, who over there? We all right here. They gonna hit her the night before she die. These motherfucking bogus motherfuckers.
Bogus as hell.
Bogus as hell. So disciples like, well, where Jesus at? They said, man, he dipped. He went over there. He's somewhere around there to keep an eye. So he come out early that morning. They see him come out in his hood. Like, who is dude? Who dude is? Who buddy is? Leaving old girl house. He there all night. Damn, what he working with? He in there doing all that to shorty? What the fuck?
Right.
So the morning time come, all the pageantry, everybody gathering around, picking up stones and shit.
Mm-hmm.
He told us stay in the crib, shorty. He's sitting down there. He like, what's happening? What's to it? I'm phoning. What's up? They like, oh man, you ain't from around here. You don't know. We got a prostitute in our midst. All our wives and shit mad and shit. Our wives mad than the motherfucker. We got a prostitute over here. He's like, oh yeah? Like, yeah, she fornicating.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she is? That's against the law. It's against Jewish law. She can't be fornicating. We got to change her over. Like, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Y'all got to kill her. What's your name, dog? You Amir? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you was the one, you came on last Tuesday, the Tuesday before that, when your father had turned you on to her. And your father, oh, okay, I see his name. Yeah, his name's Jabril. Okay, cool, I got you. Yeah. What? Oh, man, I ain't. Yeah. Tell your wife about that? And then you, loudmouth.
Right.
And he get to run their ass down. They said, well, we gotta kill her because she bogus. He said, okay, yeah, kill her. But he who ain't hit, the motherfucker that ain't run up in her, cast the first stone. Let me see.
Right.
Which one of you motherfuckers?
Right.
So I done drew your faces. She done told me your name, your children's name, where you come from, what your job is.
Don't tell me he was a cold artist too.
Come on, man. You know he was. You know he was.
He did. What's those sketches they do at the police when you at the station?
Man. But you gotta understand something
what he
about
look
dude.
like? Okay.
Yeah, you gotta understand something about dude. Dude was a comedian,
a
rapper, a poet, a singer, storyteller.
Yeah.
One of the major things is why he could communicate with the people so well, he didn't speak. He spoke some Latin, so he could understand the Romans.
Yeah.
He also spoke Aramaic. He understood the language of the day. But he spoke a dialect of Aramaic called Galilean, because he's from Galilee.
Yeah.
So it's a slang. Because Galilee was poor folk. They had got a new language, a quicker language to how to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So he could talk in all the languages of the region. Feel me?
Yeah.
Made him super cold. Made him super duper cold. And the reason why the dialect is important, I tell the story all the time. I was talking to Lupita Gupta, Lupita Nwange, talking to her cousin. And her cousin, they speak Swahili.
Mm.
So I get to speak in Swahili. My daddy taught me Swahili when we was kids. I get to speak in Swahili, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And she looking at me, everybody gathering around. We had the ASCAP award. They like, well, Malik speak Swahili, let's go. And she looking, she like, all her and her girl's face start turning up on me. Like, I was like, these the right words. I'm like, I ain't saying this right. She's like, no, you saying it right, but you speak it like a white man. Don't speak it with the spirit. Because I'm just reading off pages. I'm not immersed in the culture.
Right.
Like, yeah, you might as well just speak English to me. It feel gross the way you speaking it.
And you know what? And
go ahead.
That's a perfect segue into what Annie did with the etymology of Black Americana.
I love it. Come on.
Black Americana, and when you think about what they tried to call Black Americana, it really was Americana.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Black Americana. It was white people's way of observing Black people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was gross.
Mm-hmm.
It was disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
But because her subject matter was so everyday that at some point somebody called her art Black Americana in reference to how it was similar to like a Norman Rockwell. Like, you know, her art is so great because it's just everyday situations, but it's with Black people. And we never really saw ourselves as just regular people doing everyday things. You know what I mean? And so like what you were saying with them, she took the grossness out of how we was depicted, but even was still able to capture the essence of it to the point that you can laugh at it, but you're not laughing at it, you're laughing with it. You understand it. Oh, okay. Whoever painted that gets it.
Gets it.
Yeah.
She understands.
It's not making fun of us. It's expressing for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is an observation and an astute observation.
Absolutely.
On a culture within a culture.
Yeah, because when you start getting into the details of everything else around it, it's like, oh, okay, you had to be immersed in that culture to know to put that particular gin bottle on the counter. You know what I mean? Or to have that particular way that the pan is hanging up. Was, you know, that's what was going on in our house. You know? Yeah. So
that's why Jesus was so smooth. Because he told a motherfucker, literally, hey, it's the law, but you know it's a variation here.
Yeah.
Because you partook.
Right.
And y'all trying to cover up.
Yeah. So you don't really care about the law. You're just using it to your advantage.
You're not a law-abiding citizen. Because you broke the law every which way but loose.
Exactly.
Because y'all got a little money, a little power, and y'all see this little pretty girl over here, and y'all juking her.
Right.
You know, y'all jugging her ass, and y'all want to kill her to cover up because y'all don't know who done threw one in her. You know what I'm saying? Which I understand.
Right.
But he's like, no, but I'm not going, though.
Right.
Then he said, you know what, shorty? These goof-ass, puss-ass, punk-ass motherfuckers alone. Go in peace and sin no more. Don't fuck with these monks no more.
Right.
Go in peace and sin no more. Go back to where you was at. Take your bread. You Gucci. Have your baby. Leave these hoe-ass niggas.
Right.
That's really what it was. And it's that. Period. And you look at the times when that was happening, there's no line of demarcation between what was the law and what people was doing as the law.
Right.
You know, we got so much more to cover on that, but you know, our time is up. So we want to thank our sponsors.
Absolutely.
You know, we want to really thank the people that listening in right now. Bad Kids, you know, Black Americana. You know, all praises to the Most High for letting Annie Lee be born in this time and era to bring people together like we haven't had an artist do this before.
Islam.
You know, we haven't had an artist do this, do it like this before. So grateful for this opportunity. And man, Abe, thank you for being here and sharing your insight on Annie Lee, who is, you know, your blood family, and you do honor your mother and your father. You know, you honor them by being upright, upstanding, incredible businessman, incredible artist, you know, in all disciplines. You know, your rapping is crazy. You know, your artwork is crazy. Your fashion is crazy. So these are things that are important as expression tools because we ain't really had no things we could pass down. No institutionalization. No physical things to pass down because of how slavery interrupted, our heritage.
Yeah.
So we had to pass down like how Joseph passed down to Jesus.
Yeah.
Pass down information and cultural gift sharing. And it's just a pleasure to be able to talk about Jesus with other people who seek to be righteous and use his tutelage to navigate our life.
For sure. It almost make slavery a blessing because the Most High wants you to use him to overcome things so that you can give him the proper credit for it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you thought nothing could change slavery, that you was lost forever. I had you the whole rip. Don't even trip.
Whole rip. I'm gonna walk with you through this. You know, I'm not gonna put you through it. I'm gonna take you through it.
Yeah.
You know.
And at the time when the Logos was meeting with those sages back then, that was coming into the Piscean age, right? So it's it happens again, and we in the Aquarian age, right? So a lot of what's happening with Black Americana and
Jesus
bad
said
kids.
it in the Bible.
He
said in the Bible.
Yeah.
They said, what do we do after you leave? He said, you're gonna see a man carrying water. He gonna go into that house. Follow him into that house. Aquarius is the water bearer.
Yeah.
Come on with the science.
For sure. Man. So it's the timing for it is prophetic.
And I want to end on a financial thing too.
Yes, sir.
He said, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not have told you.
I wouldn't have said that shit.
Mansions.
Like I ain't got a lot of you.
I'm gonna tell you some bullshit for. I told you the streets paved with gold. They pay. You see, the Romans paving these streets with this wet concrete. This dope. But we got the gold shit though.
Right.
So until next time, we gonna talk about come back on Jesus Talks and talk about Jesus and what he talked about.
Yeah.
You feel me?
For sure.
Talk about some of the miracles, the walk on water, the fish, and the whole nine.
Man.
All right. Man. So man, appreciate y'all.
Likewise.
Appreciate
on phone now. Yep.
St. Dwayne,
to
appreciate
the family.
you, God. Yes, sir. All right.
Doses.